Hey guys, this is Nick with PhoneArena and you're watching our in-depth video review of the new BlackBerry Q5. This is the third BlackBerry 10 smartphone released by BlackBerry so far, after the Z10 and the Q10, but unlike the other two smartphones, this one is meant to be kind of affordable. It's a mid-range smartphone and it sports the typical for BlackBerry form factor with the QWERTY keyboard underneath the display. Speaking of the screen, it measures 3.1 inches in diagonal and has a resolution of 720 by 720 pixels. You also get a 5 megapixel autofocus camera and 8 gigabytes of built-in storage. So that's the BlackBerry Q5. Let's now check it out and see how it performs. The BlackBerry Q5 looks and feels like your typical BlackBerry smartphone. It's neither too big nor too small, and it's surely compact enough to fit into pretty much any pocket. The rounded corners and backsides are a welcome design feature as they make the device fit nicely in the palm of your hand. Single-handed operation is quite effortless since our thumb can easily reach any key on the keyboard and the further corners of its touchscreen. Two-handed operation, while typing for example, feels just as natural. However, there are a few things that we aren't quite happy with, and one of them is how cheap the BlackBerry Q5 feels with its plastic body. It does seem durable enough, but its appearance is rather bland and uninspiring. At least it comes in multiple colors including black, white, pink and red. Another imperfection that bothers us is how much finger grease accumulates on its matte plastic surface. The lock button on the BlackBerry Q5 is on the top side, and we find its location very suitable because it's easy to reach no matter which hand you're holding the device with. On the top side we also have a noise cancellation microphone and a 3.5mm headphone jack. The volume rocker is positioned on the right side of the smartphone, and we like it since it has raised, clicky, easy to feel buttons. And on the left side of the smartphone we have the micro USB port as well as the micro SD and the SIM card slots. We have to admit that we are very happy with the hardware keyboard on the BlackBerry Q5. The keys provide great tactile feedback, they're well spaced out, and we really like their shape as well. So if texting and writing emails are your primary uses for a smartphone, then the BlackBerry Q5 won't disappoint you. One of the drawbacks of the traditional BlackBerry form factor is that there just isn't enough space for a screen of decent size. The BlackBerry Q5 comes with a 3.5-inch display, which is quite small, the resolution of which is 720 by 720, which makes for a very odd aspect ratio of 1:1. The user interface of the BlackBerry 10 platform, of course, is optimized for use on a display of such proportions, but some activities like, for example, browsing the web or enjoying movies or photos just aren't as enjoyable as they should be. On the bright side of things, the resolution of the BlackBerry Q5 display is very high, which is why everything on it, from photos and graphics to small text in web pages, looks sharp and detailed. The color representation is neutral, which is actually a good thing because color hues are as saturated as they should be. Using the BlackBerry Q5 outdoors might be a challenge. The display is definitely bright enough, but its surface is quite reflective, and that may have a negative effect on outdoor visibility. The BlackBerry Q5 comes running BlackBerry 10, and even if you've used a BlackBerry smartphone before, chances are that the user interface of the new system will get you confused at first. There is no home key here, there is no back key either. Instead, navigating through the interface is done through the use of gestures. Thankfully, these are explained in a tutorial during the first boot of the device. Long story short, there's a steep learning curve with BlackBerry 10, so be prepared. The BlackBerry Hub, which you access with a swipe up and swipe right gesture, is where all your text-based communication is done on a BlackBerry Q5. The solution integrates your email, your text messaging and call history and notifications, but also brings your social networking under the same roof. It's a pretty well-made solution that will be liked by socially active consumers. BlackBerry has done a great job at making sure that BlackBerry 10 runs fluidly even on modest hardware. The BlackBerry Q5, for example, may have just a dual-core Snapdragon S4 chip clocked at 1.2 GHz, but it has absolutely no troubles handling any task thrown at it. Multitasking is snappy as well, which comes as no surprise since there are 2 GB of RAM on board this device. Overall, we did not encounter any slowdowns or lags during our testing. If you are into gaming, then we have both good and bad news. The good news is that the BlackBerry Q5 is definitely powerful enough to run even 3D games. The bad news, however, is that some titles were listed as incompatible with the BlackBerry Q5. We have mixed feelings about the BlackBerry Q5 and its stock web browser. On one hand, it is very fast and fluid, even while rendering heavy web pages, and there's support for all essential stuff such as multiple tabs and YouTube videos. There's even a quick way of accessing bookmarks and history with the press of a button on the keyboard. However, the small display is what renders the experience quite underwhelming. Of course, you may still look up things on Wikipedia, but overall, because of the small display, the experience is below par. There's a camera shortcut placed on the lock screen of the BlackBerry Q5. You activate it by holding it down, which is an odd solution since launching the camera app from the home screen might be faster. The user interface of the camera app is rather simple and doesn't really give you that much control over the camera of the device. There are some shooting scenes and shooting modes, and the most advanced feature is called time shift. Basically, it allows you to replace the face of a person after a photo has been taken, just in case someone blinks. Photos that are taken with the BlackBerry Q5 and its 5-megapixel camera look mediocre at best. They lack the fine detail we've come to expect out of smartphone cameras nowadays, and colors in them are often awkwardly exaggerated. Indoor photos look even worse, lacking contrast and sometimes out of focus in scenes that are too dark. Videos taken with the BlackBerry Q5, on the other hand, look okay, and their maximum resolution is 1080p. The music player on the BlackBerry Q5 may be basic, but it definitely works. It has support for album art and will list your collection by album or artist name. Controlling the playback from any screen can be done with the press of a volume key, which brings this handy widget with playback controls. With its small square screen, the BlackBerry Q5 is definitely not suitable for watching movies. Of course, you're free to watch a YouTube video every once in a while, but watching videos for prolonged periods of time is far from a pleasant experience. Phone calls made using the BlackBerry Q5 are of quality well above the average. Its earpiece sounds clear and natural and doesn't need to have its volume set up to the maximum in order to be clearly audible. The microphone works good as well, delivering natural voice tones on the other side of the line. There's a 2180 mAh battery inside the BlackBerry Q5, which is actually a very decent size for a cell inside a device that's meant to be a mid-range smartphone. Just keep in mind that the back cover is sealed and cannot be opened. On a single charge, this battery should last through about 12 hours of continuous talk time. So in conclusion, the BlackBerry Q5 isn't a bad phone, but we cannot really imagine it becoming a bestseller overnight. That's because it targets a very specific demographic. These are the people who aren't yet ready to give up on the hardware keyboard and folks who haven't yet switched from BBM to an alternative messaging application, and the number of people belonging to both these groups is slowly decreasing. But as we already said, the BlackBerry Q5 is definitely not a bad smartphone. It is very fast and responsive, and it has a very nice hardware keyboard that is ideal for heavy text-based communication. But the trade-offs to sticking to the traditional BlackBerry form factor cannot be ignored, and one of them is the fact that you get a rather small 3.1-inch display. Another thing that we must note is that the camera is of below average quality. But nevertheless, people who absolutely must have a hardware keyboard on their smartphone should be happy with the BlackBerry Q5, and besides, they won't really be able to find a better alternative anyway, other than the more expensive BlackBerry Q10 of course. People who don't really need the hardware keyboard, on the other hand, better look elsewhere. For example, if you need an operating system that is just as fluid and responsive as BlackBerry 10, you might give Windows Phone a try. For example, the Nokia Lumia 720 and the HTC 8X are two great Windows Phone 8 smartphones that really shouldn't cost more than the BlackBerry Q5, but have larger screens and are just as compact. And if you prefer Android, then try the Sony Xperia SP or the HTC first. Both come with better screens and are just as compact as the BlackBerry Q5. Thank you for watching our video review of the BlackBerry Q5. This is Nick. To learn more about this smartphone, just visit our website phonearena.com.